little section here, he gets in some trouble. One morning when we arrived at the factory and headed for our work in the lumber yard, we noticed Japanese soldiers all over the place. They were running and crawling and obviously playing war, so the Japanese were running a drill. We just ignored what was going on and walked right through them to get to our shack. When we were in the process of hanging up our coats, when a Japanese officer burst in on us, and he was mad. So he gets in trouble. The Japanese officer that's all mad lines up everyone in the little shack, and he has his saber in his left hand, and he started punching each guy in the face. And that's what he does. And they end up getting in trouble because they got punched. I guess they got in trouble because they got punched. And finally, he's going to be questioned. And he's going to get questioned in this guardhouse, which is sort of like where they do solitary confinement in this guardhouse, the prison within the prison. So James is about to get interrogated. Back to the book. He asked me if I thought that the Japanese officer at the factory had a right to hit us the way he did. I hesitated for a second, like I was pondering the question, then answered, well, I am not sure. Just as soon as these words came out of my mouth, I knew that I had answered wrong. But nothing happened, and I was questioned a bit further until the same question came up again. Did I think that the Japanese officer at the factory had the right to hit us the way he did? For a second, I was in a quandary. Should I just say yes, sir, or should I repeat my first answer? I decided maybe being consistent was the way to go, so I repeated my original answer, and that was a mistake. Almost instantly, I was hit on the right side of my jaw with a closed fist, not by the officer, but by the interpreter. From that point on, he decided to slap me in the face as hard as he could. I think he really hurt his fist when he hurt me the first time, which is why he changed to the slap. All the while you were being beaten, you were being made to stand at attention. With this kind of beating, you don't give them the satisfaction of letting them know you are hurt. You just don't let yourself fall down and moan. All I could think about was, you little son of a bitch, if I could just get you alone under different circumstances, I would tear you apart. After the beating stopped, I was thrown into the guardhouse with the rest of the guys. The inside of my mouth was badly cut, and I swallowed blood for several days. My face was swollen, and I had black eyes. I stayed in the guardhouse for about 3 weeks. Conditions in the guardhouse were unbelievably cruel, and I hope I can explain exactly what it was like. It was built similar to our barracks, except it had cells instead of separate sleeping quarters. There was a central hall with cells on either side. Each cell was about 8 feet wide and probably 12 feet long, with a very narrow slit trench for a latrine in the back corner. The floor was concrete, and that was it. No bed, blanket, chair, or anything else. The guardhouse was solitary confinement at its worst. I found the hardest thing to take was the boredom. You've heard the song "Time Goes By So Slowly"? Well, it certainly applied then. Standing in one place, even if not at attention, can be a killer. I used to watch a spot of light that came in through the crack on the boarded window, and it almost drove me mad. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't. It would be made to get up. I would be made to get up in the morning at 5 o'clock, and several hours later, when there was sufficient light, the spot would appear. It first showed up on one side of my cell and then moved so terribly slowly across the other side until it finally disappeared. After it was gone, I knew I still had several hours to go before I would get rest. It was agony to watch, and it was the same thing day after day after day. And then eventually we were probably released when we were, without the usual trial and sentencing, because the Russians invaded Manchuria.